Welcome back to another episode of I'm Really Into That Stuff. This is the podcast that features me, Jana Stern, psychic activator, energy healer, and astrologer, as I delve into deep conversations with different folks in the holistic and conscious industries about the many beliefs and practices of spirituality, mental health, and what it means to be a human who's into that stuff in the 2020s and beyond. I'm Really Into That Stuff is excited to tell you that we have won one of the top 10 Esoterica podcast spots on feedspot.com. Check out the whole list at blog.feedspot.com/esoterica_podcasts for the whole list. Thanks to our friends at Feedspot for this incredible honor. Welcome back to another episode of I'm Really Into That Stuff. I am joined by the brilliant and beautiful Jillian Weisberg. I'm so excited that you're here. You are an herbal medicine practitioner. You're a holistic nutritionist. You're an iridologist. You are like the herbal empress and the mushroom queen. You are everything supplements. Like whenever I think supplements, I'm like, my mind immediately goes to you. Especially when it comes to like feminine supplements, masculine testosterones, those kinds of things. Those are all like your specialties, and I know about it. We're going to talk about all of it. But first, I would love for you to give people a little bit more of a deeper intro into who you are and how you got into that stuff.
Incredible. Thank you so much. I've been pretty stoked about this interview as well. And I've been following your journey for a super long time. And I feel like there's so many different things that you can get into when it comes to the holistic nutrition path. And for me, I was always interested in mental health. I really wanted to make a difference for people to feel better. And when I was a kid, I was studying psychology. I was studying everything around how to have a better life. But I was living in this like kind of weird place where it's like mentally I knew the right things to do, but my body was not catching up to that. My body was more like living a double life. There was a monster in me that I know was very much hormonally driven, that was very self-deprecative. I still have retained some of those qualities, but now more for the better. I can make fun of myself and I'm totally chill about it. But I had a lot of issues with like self-esteem and mental like gymnastics that I would go through around things, and just problems with family members around anger issues. So I would turn into like a total monster around my period, especially, and throw plates across the room. And it was pretty disastrous. And I spent at least a day to two just in bed, completely like unable to do anything when I was going through my hormonal time. So I, for the longest time, was like, oh, this is a psychological issue. Like, this is something that I need to figure out with these different texts and Dear Abby columns and read what I can. But when I was 16, thankfully, I had the chance to work in a health food store. And that was my introduction to just the world of supplements. In a matter of 2 years, I completely turned my life around and my whole personality, like, upgraded massively. And it was like I was a brand new person. I felt a whole new level of ease. I would have people ask me, like, what are you doing? Are you in love? Like, what's going on? And it was just this, like, radiance that started to emerge. I dropped weight after years of, like, binge eating and under eating and trying all of these, like, fad diets that weren't really getting my body anywhere. So it was, like, this really big initiation at a very young age into holistic health. And I became someone that was just obsessed with everything to do with it. And I really rapidly realized, I was like, why are people going so heavily into psychology when there's actually so much more with the physical body that needs to be supported in a certain way? Otherwise, you just can't be the person that you want to be. So it was the first time that I really was like, wowed. And I just thought to myself, people think that they're on the right path going into getting therapy, which it's always a great idea. I still recommend it. I still go to therapy myself when I need to. But even more than that, it's like your body and your mind won't even construct the same level of insane thoughts if you are just taking care of your vessel. And that in itself has been a huge process.
I love that. I love that. That's like, I'm right there with you. I also have anger issues. I know that therapy is not enough. There are other things that we need to do, both on the physical level and the energetic level, that need to get us from just the overthinking and the cycle of just talking it out and talking it out and talking it out. That doesn't really do anything, really. It's helpful and it's a good tool to have in the tool belt, but it's not enough, right? So I love all of what you're saying and where you're at. And I love that you started at such a young age and it just made such a huge impact to just like take you on this path that you have not strayed from. I mean, this is really what you do. Can you chat a little bit about some of the supplements that you make and all of the things that you sell? Link will be in the bio. Go ahead and purchase because Jillian's going to blow your fucking mind. Talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you sell.
Yeah. And I also want to give a touch of background too, just where I studied so people know that too. So as I said, when I was 19, I was actually signed up at Life Sciences at McMaster University. Before I started the program, I decided to drop out and I went full holistic services, and I decided to study in Mississauga, Toronto area for nutrition program. And it was one of the most like concentrated nutrition programs in the country. So they were one of the only schools that would actually do preventative health, that would work on mental health issues, that would work on herbal medicine. And then I also ended up doing an herbal course in California for 4 years. It was a part-time online program, really great for Ayurvedic, so Indian herbal medicine with Western herbology and Chinese medicine. So all of those systems, plus iridology analysis courses, twice I've done an iridology course, which is study the eyes to see what's going on in the body. All of these became like this vessel, and I started seeing clients one-on-one. All of my herbal formulas were born from long-term periods of time of taking clients one-on-one for my general nutrition practice, my general iridology practice. So I would look at people's eyes and start seeing, okay, well, they're deficient in certain sats, they're having a hard time with sleep, they're dealing with liver stagnation, they're having issues with obsessive control, impulsivity. And I would say, okay, well, like this person's form of ADHD is coming out in this way because of this. But this person's ADHD is more blood sugar related. It's more trauma based. I'm seeing that because it's more pituitary adrenal driven. So there was a lot of things that just emerged as patterns within my client practice. And I was I'd have like 100 herbs on hand at any given time. Huge apothecary, I still do. And it would be mixing things, often in teas, then it evolved to capsules and powder forms. So one of my top sellers right now is a product called Booby Grow that naturally firms and grows the breasts 1 cup size larger in 4 months, or partial money back guarantee. It has quite literally hundreds of testimonials. That product has been such an immensely impacting process for women, because it's one of those things where if you can do something with herbs that's impossible, people will be sucked. So I'm obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed. And that's been a big thing with, I feel the nature of my purpose has been to be a bit more of a taboo herbalist, a bit more someone I'm meant to blow your mind with what's possible with herbs. And this program itself, it came about because of my fitness model journey. So I've shared with you how I lost a lot of weight, right? I lost over 35 pounds between 17 and 19. And I had hypothyroidism. So it was always a bit of an uphill battle. So I always carried a lot in like my neck, my face, and my belly. That dropped away. I get into fitness modeling. Now I'm like so skinny. I lost my boobs, like just gone. And I was always at least like a B cup, C cup kind of thing. So I'm in this position where I'm like, my body's shape shifted. I have no boobs, but I'm strong. I'm working out. I feel like relatively great. And I just decided to put myself to the test and say, well, can I get the boobs back? And I tested several different formulations for 3 years on several of my girlfriends and myself, and trying to figure out, we know that there's herbs that can grow the boobs. I don't care what Google says. There's literally over 15 different herbs that can grow the boobs, of which one of those herbs has 200 varieties. So there was a lot to work with. But the problem was a lot of the herbs were going extinct. They were too expensive. They're just not accessible to me. Some of them could be more problematic for hormones in the long run. So I was trying to find like what's the most general net beneficial combination of herbs that can make the fastest difference and the most beneficial side effects or side benefits, I'll say, versus side effects. So Booby Grow, I ended up seeing all these women around me, and my friends were like obsessed. So I'm like, take this, take this, take this, take this, take this, take this. And they were just like
the best kind of drug dealer.
These supplements, yeah. And they're just like trying these formulations out, and I'd be making it up. And then I have had some of those women on board since 2017, so what is that? 7 years that just continue to work with the systems that I have, that are stuck with it and they love it. And I have women that grow even 2 cup sizes larger, 2.5 cup sizes larger is the most. A woman in her late 30s, after 13 months on the program, she ended up getting that size. So it's pretty crazy.
And are there other benefits to it besides the growth of the breast tissue?
Tons. Hair grows stronger, nails grow stronger, skin often will clear up a lot. Like women, even on birth control, can use it. That's a lot of women's question is, can I use this? I'm on birth control. Yes, you can. I have women that are all in hormonal replacement therapy that will use it. There is a mood benefit for a lot of women. Every once in a while, we do have women where it's like, I would say 1 in 20 women, the program just won't work for whatever reason. And we say, okay, well, here's, a partial refund. But the majority of women, it's like, it will balance their cycle out, reduce the cramping. So those in of themselves is enough for women to often say, well, I'm going to take a maintenance dose. I'm going to lower it from the growth dose. Because there's a point where you don't need to take the herbs anymore. There's a point where you don't need to take the growth dose, like 8 capsules plus a day. You could just do 2 capsules a couple times a week even to maintain in the long run. So women that just want the benefits of, hey, well, my body just has responded really well to this. Like my hormones are way better. A lot of women submit that feedback and I have that all over the Instagram and the website. So they say, okay, well, take a couple capsules, a few days a week and you maintain the cup size that you've gained. So you keep the breast size that you are, but you're also just helping reduce cramping and improve the hair and nail quality. I have women that say my hair stopped growing as fast when I went off your product. I'm going to go back on your product. We don't heavily advertise it for it. We really emphasize more around firmness of the breast, lifting of the breast. A lot of women post-pregnancy, post-breastfeeding are unhappy because their breast will flatten out. This will actually bring back the vavoosh, like the roundedness. That's the main reason I would say women are using the program in general.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Would you say that the people, that 1 in 20, is it a physical thing or is it an energetic thing that they're not aligning with it? Like, what would the reasons behind that be?
So I've worked a lot on those factors over the years because I remember when I first got started experimenting, 2015, I had one woman who was also in fitness modeling. I looked at her diet. I saw this girl lives on alcohol and bread. She doesn't have any fat. She doesn't have any protein in her body. So she also was under eating severely. When I had her fix those factors, she immediately grew a 1/2 cup size in a couple months. So it was like really fast change. I released an ebook to go with the program. Some of these women, they'll say to me, oh, like I'm eating more avocado, I'm eating more of the fats. But because unless I'm working with someone one-on-one and I'm seeing their food diary, for all I know, they're still like maybe really under eating, or maybe there is even something emotionally going on where they're not accepting of receiving love. The breasts have a lot to do with your openness to just accept support.
Yeah, that's your heart chakra, right? So I say it all the time. If you get breast cancer, it's because your heart chakra is too open or too closed.
And there's been a bit of an experience with some of the women that I've spoken to around this. It's almost like when some women like give up on, I think, their feminine side at all, like they don't have a connection. A couple of the women that it didn't work for, what I noticed is like they work in offices and I'm thinking to myself, maybe that's something, maybe there's just too much structure, not enough play, not enough like freeness in their expression and being. So there could be something there. There's actually a lot about chest exercises that a woman can do to like open her chest. So I include that in the ebook. So if women take the program 100% seriously, I have really strong confidence most women it's going to work. But there's just situations too where hormonally the factors that I already ruled out, which was, lower luteinizing hormone or lowered estrogen levels, the product pretty much takes care of. But there could be situations where some women, they're so far gone, they are in a position where they would need to take the product maybe for 8 months before seeing results. And once in a while, we have women like that. Not every woman's willing to invest that level, right? So that's something, and I'm not the type of person that even is wanting to push that.
You want clients who are excited to do the work.
Yeah, I'd say like, if you do 4 months and you don't get any firmness changes, to me, that's a sign it's not going to work for you. Like you should at least get firming, So if your body's just totally non-responsive, it's like you also could be in a very strong stress response because stress response will suppress the luteinizing hormone heavy, which is a big component of booby growth in growing the breasts.
And you have a product for men as well. Is that right?
Full throttle, baby. Yeah.
love the name of it. That's amazing. Talk about it.
Yeah, I have this subtitle on the package is strength and length. So here's the thing. I actually really want that product to mostly be promoted by men, for men. I developed that from a one-on-one consultation that a client paid me for to figure out like, how are we going to elevate his testosterone levels? Well, we did that successfully, very easily. He took it for a month, but then he calls me, and because he was a friend of mine, he tells me, he's like, well, he was open enough to express, I just grew an inch. I said, what do you mean? I just grew an inch, Jill. What do you mean? I just grew an inch in my dick. I was like,
not an inch taller, babe.
This just happened. I was like, no way, no way, no way. And he was like, yes, this just happened. I said, okay. I didn't want to tell anybody. I just wanted to spend the next few years for men that were buying this product that I knew well. I would say, hey, besides the testosterone improving benefits and increased energy, anything else that's come up? And I had a few men that were open enough to share, yeah, I've grown. I couldn't believe it. But I found eventually in a Spanish text that one of the herbs, Brazilian potency wood, it translates to meaning like bigger dick, basically. It has the benefits of helping with penile strength, and it's really good for pressing forward arginine production, which is a blood vasodilator herb. So it opens up the blood flow to the extremities. So this blend, I have men that will use this in place of Viagra. I actually have a few young men, unfortunately, that were taking Viagra. I don't know why they would get into something like that so young.
It's like young girls who do Botox. You're like, are you okay?
I know, you start at 25 doing Botox, and I'm just like, I'm so sad.
I'm so sad. I'm so sad. I'm almost 40 and I've never done it, and I can't.
It's a special type of neurosis. I feel like it's a special type of like, it's like that creepy, crawly, like the media in the background trying to push certain things. So even a lot of my message with like my products is very particular, because even with Booby Grow, it's like, I have the chance to look like, I don't know, like a porn star hoe or something, selling this type of thing. It could be marketed like that, or it's more, it's not about bigger is better. That's never been my message. It's just about, hey, I know the alternative is implants and silicone. I don't want you taking that. I don't want you winding up with inflammatory diseases and crazy weight gain and trouble having kids and these issues
with all kinds of things when you go into the surgery route of things.
It's so brutal. And it's like I've talked to some of these women, and one of my colleagues, Amanda, she's got a channel called The Holistic Beauty Coach on Instagram. She's phenomenal. She's from Hollywood. She's in her late 40s now. She was getting implants in her 20s, did the Botox thing, ended up having all this like weird weight gain. She couldn't drop the weight. She had these strange rashes. She was starting to get just really low energy. When she got the implants removed, all those problems went away. And then she started doing a lot of education on, hey, we don't need these implants anymore. This is actually how truly toxic they are. There's over 100 different health issues that have been linked to this. This is not something we should be telling women about. So her and I have been partnering up. She's an affiliate with Booby Grow. She's got like 80,000 followers on Instagram that she organically grew. And because it grew organically and Instagram also suppresses that information, that's how you actually know that there's a lot of women seeking out answers and they're seeking out solutions. They just don't really know where to go, because a lot of this stuff is blocked too. One of my biggest challenges with having Booby Grow, for example, as a company, I did 6 months of ads on Google. It couldn't really go anywhere. Google keeps blocking ads, right? So for me, like to even have grown the business to this place, it's all been mostly, it's word of mouth, but now over 51% of my clientele is worldwide. So people are finding my page. They're learning about these women's testimonials. They're seeing, wow, these are some really great real results. And we have women from 18 to late 50s that take this program. So it's a really large demographic, actually. It doesn't have to be this thing of feeling excluded. Oh, only works in your 20s and 30s. No, we have women that will use this as their own form of hormonal replacement therapy in their 50s. So it's really cool to just see how it's evolving with time. And we have more feminine supportive products that we're adding to the line. So Amanda, we're partnering up with to have a lymphatic drainage blend. because something that was discovered, I want to talk about this. Okay. So there was a breast size satisfaction study that was done globally in 20 different countries. What they discovered,
By women or by men?
I believe it was by women. Okay. So for women, polling women, and it was like 60+% of all women globally were unhappy with their breasts in some way. And what's interesting about this correlation is it actually stops women from even touching themselves, loving on themselves, being open to just feeling what that is like. And then what it leads to is often breast cancer, lumps, bumps. Something that's very preventative is massage. So if you're doing massage, you're draining the breast. But so many of us were wearing underwire bras, we're wearing bras at all, we're wearing really tight clothes with plastic fibers, and all of that is very constrictive. It's not good for our health as women. We actually want to go braless or no underwires or more free, sun on the chest. All of those are really supportive, lots of massage. That will keep the breast really healthy. And there's also a psychological component to breast cancer of, like you said earlier, it's like not receiving love, being almost like hypervigilant, like total mama bird, over caring about people around you and just not caring about yourself.
Right. That's self-sacrificial. That is how it goes. Usually most women that I know who have had or dealt with breast cancer in their life, they're self-sacrificing. They're so self-sacrificing that they'll give their whole heart away, and their breasts are the thing that show that.
It's sad. It's very, very sad. And the thing is, there is also a huge attack, I believe, on women's health and men's health in general. And a big place that we see this is just the products that we're using. So when I was 18, I ditched $1,500 in cosmetics and lotions. I barely wear makeup anymore. Like it's like I buy organic quality materials when I do. I take it so seriously because your lymphatic system, which is a huge part of your body's elimination system, it sits just below the skin all throughout the body. If it gets clogged up, that's what actually leads to cancers. That's what leads to fibroids. That's what leads to cysts. And so many of these things, they're so easily preventable. You just need to look and make sure that you're not putting parabens on your skin. You're not taking in xenoestrogens. You're not drinking from plastic. I still have work to do on these things. There's things where even as a holistic practitioner, I'm not perfect. I would say that even now, like having been in this industry for 15 years, I've evolved in my own ways to adopt more of the world's ways, which at one point I completely cut out. But there's certain things that I'm very cognizant of, and I'm very attentive to my body. And I think what women are up against is women don't even know how good they could feel. They don't even understand the access to wealth of being and energy and vitality and radiance that they could be getting to if only they took care of detoxification, hormonal balance, like supporting their body in the right way, taking away the things that we don't need. So with my practice, I have a program that I launched years ago, Vibrant Vixen, which is all about taking women through those steps. It's pretty much the condensed version of my own healing version that that took over a couple of years, condensed into like 3 months.
Sure, that's how that goes. The best of us are like, been through the trenches. You want to go the fast way?
Yeah, actually, and for women that like take their health on, which I'm very blessed, I always call in the ripe and ready. It's like, you're working with me because you're ripe and ready. Let's go. So I take these women on, and then it's like I get to watch them have those huge aha moments. Like, holy shit, I didn't realize like how amazing my skin could feel, how much more I'm not going to be complaining and freaking out all the time because I've got a sense of balance. Like, I'm noticing that my relationship's going a lot better. I'm observing that like I feel really sexy and beautiful, and I'm not like overthinking things in the same way. So there's these personality shifts, emotional shifts, mental shifts, physical shifts that all are occurring simultaneously through that process. And I'm a very generous giver with my clients too. It's like I'm like I will do a lot for you to like understand and be supported and know how to make it accessible for your life. Because I'm also cognizant that it's like everyone's kind of at a different stage with food, supplements, so on and so forth. Not everyone has the finances. So I cater to a lot of women that they're trying to simplify and they're trying to figure out like maybe they already are sitting on good supplements, but they just don't know how to use it properly. So I help them understand how to make all of that come together.
Sure, that's really cool. Talked a little bit about it, but iridology, can you chat a little bit about what it is and how it works? Because the science of it is fascinating to me. And I know that there are a lot of things that we can address. Like, we say the eyes are the window to the soul, right? I'm assuming that that's kind of the basic concept, is that you're stuck in your body and your eyes know it and it shows you what's going on there. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, you're on the right track. Absolutely. One of my favorite ways to describe iridology analysis is actually through like having someone like show me your eye for a second. Let me tell you about yourself. That's a really fun way. So there's over 80 different areas in the eyes that will represent all the different body organs. The top hemisphere of the eyes is all the brain area. You can see if someone has a tendency towards psychosis or obsessive compulsive disorder or anxiety or depression or suicide or joyousness, dyslexia, even problems with speech, all in the eye. So when I'm looking at someone's eyes, I'm not only interacting with what stage of health their liver's at or thyroid or bowel, I'm also interacting with the general personality and like the landscape of how someone is dealing with the external world or not dealing with the external world. So something that's really common, for example, in a lot of people nowadays is something called nerve rings, and they look like concentric lines throughout the eye. A lot of them are really visible, especially like blue-eyed and brown-eyed people. It's like indents in the eyes. These are nerve rings. And when people have 4 or more, it means that they're more like on the verge of a nervous breakdown, if not having already had one. They're highly sensitive, they're very empathic, but they're highly controlling of their environments and circumstances, whether by needing to, right, out of necessity, or just by default. So a personality element. When I see certain things in the eyes, like nerve rings, I'm going to say, okay, well, we need to build up the nerves. We need to build up the health of the nervous system. That's going to likely take some counseling, but we can take a load off by helping to nourish the nerves with like the certain types of minerals, certain types of fats, certain types of B vitamins that are going to help fortify and build this person back up. And because if I see that it's for indentations, for example, I know it's more long-term. So I know this is probably for 2 years that this person's going to be really working on that. They'll start to experience results within the first month, but it's going to take a longer time to get over the hump and back to where they would have been had they not been exposed to those circumstances. So there's a lot of ripple effects. Even, for example, if you got pneumonia when you were a kid, a lot of times there's still a perforation and an imprint. So the lung area, bronchial area may show, hey, it's healed, but it will still show that residual. So when you're looking at someone's eyes, you're looking at not just now, you're looking at past, long period of time. So it's a really valuable tool. And
It's so cool. My mind is blown. Please keep going.
I ended up going back to school for iridology analysis in 2020. I first started it in 2013. I went back in 2020 to learn with a different teacher who had studied more from the Austrian Germany sides of the study and Australia as well. So he had gotten even more into the sclerology, so the whites of the eyes, as well as where Myers-Briggs personality test correlates with the eye. So just as an example, when somebody has very straight fibers of the eyes, and it will appear such for me when I see a photograph, I know that that person is highly resilient physically. Like they have a body that they could abuse. They could be doing all the wrong things and they'll never see a holistic practitioner. They'll never see a doctor for 100 years, quite literally. They're smoking, they're drinking. But what it is, it's like the integrity of the body is so good. Then you have people like me where I have what's called more the flower iris type. So even in the Myers-Briggs personality test, they'll say that I'm more of the emotional iris type. I'm also the one that like physically I can break down really easily, but there is a lot of resilience emotionally because I have to work smarter, not harder, and I have to work with my own flows. I'm not someone that can necessarily, hereditary speaking and constitutionally speaking, that can go for 14 hours straight day in, day out and just like power through. That's more the iris types that are silk iris types, very straight fibers. So I have had to always be a bit more like on top and like sensitive to my body. Otherwise, it's easy to put myself into burnout. Now, because of how much work I've done, I've had my iridology teacher in 2020 say, I never seen anyone do so much work on their body in my life. He's like, you're basically a linen now. So I upgraded, in fibers of my eyes. So it's different. It's not the same as it used to be. So you can definitely see the growth. You can definitely see the changes. Something that was really cool, even just that happened last week, was I could tell that this lady had borderline high blood pressure. Not full on high blood pressure, but borderline because of the lines that were in her whites of her eyes. I just had a client yesterday. She came to me and she was told she has surfer's eye. So she has these yellow goblets that are in the whites of her eyes. Oh, it's surfer eye. It's exposure to UV. No, this girl has like chronic bile stagnation. She did so many drugs and drank so much in her 20s. She's eating healthy now, but just because you eat healthy now doesn't mean you're actually truly undoing the damage that was done. Even if you were 10 years old, like my liver was chronic when I was 17 going to my iridology teacher, right? And seeing him as a practitioner. And he says to me, he's like, what did you eat as a kid? I was like, well, Fruit Loops, and I would eat like $20.05 candies a week. All of those dyes were enough to put a lot of damage, a lot of load on my liver and my thyroid.
Also, no wonder you were throwing plates.
No wonder I was throwing plates, right? It was like a natural byproduct. It's not even the worst. My diet was like atrocious. Like every food addiction that could be addicted to, there was that, right? And I'm not perfect to this day. So there's been like a huge evolution. So I say for any person that wants to work with me, I always prefer to start with the iridology as the foundation, because you're getting the blueprint to how to take care of yourself for life. Actually, like there is a lot of information that just arises from that experience where I can know, well, for your whole life, you will always need to have a level of attention to your lymphatic system, to your thyroid. Doesn't mean you can't get over all these issues. You absolutely can, but more attention to detail is just going to be needed.
Yeah. That's so fascinating, and all just from the eyes. Where does the practice of this begin? I guess we've been doing this as a species for a while.
Egyptian times, there was hieroglyphics that would show like, oh, here's the leg in the bottom hemisphere, here's the heart over here. Like it would replicate that in imagery. There's been a lot that's been lost. So it's almost as though iridology disappeared off the face of the planet from Egyptian times to the 1800s. So Ignaz von Piczeli is currently credited as the man that brought it back. He was a Hungarian physician doctor. The story with him was he had an owl that broke its leg in his backyard. And when he went to go pick up the owl, he saw that there was a line that was emerging, a black line that was emerging in the bottom half, which is the leg area. He nursed the owl back to health. Those lines disappeared. And he was a surgeon. So he ended up tracking his tens of thousands of clients throughout his lifetime. What's going on? Oh, I did heart surgery. I did lung surgery. What's going on here? And he would just start to map it out. Even to this day, my iridology teacher from 2020, he actually was able to figure out where the wisdom teeth is in the eye. Like there's still parts of the body being discovered in the eye and correlated back. So it's still a developing science.
Sure. I mean, it's one of those things, you say that we sort of lost some of the information. And I think in the dark ages, which is when that was going on then, all that erasing and forgetting that we did as a species, I think that in that time, the medicine of it I think it was on purpose taken from us. And I think that as we come back into this remembering, we have to rediscover, oh yeah, and this and this and this. But I think that where we're going evolutionarily is like we're coming into our remembering collectively. And so it's not surprising that like this magic, this medicine is really kind of growing because it's catching up to where we were once upon a time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it gets cut out, lost for a time, reemerge, re-remembering. There's certain people meant to be on those paths. And even with iridology being cut out of the naturopathic doctor curriculum in Canada in 1993, right? So it was cut out at one point. Why do they do that, right? And so it's like really rare and actually kind of hard to get proper courses in Canada.
Well, I mean, when you look at what's going on right now, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are around the government. Yeah.
It's a mess. It's a mess right now.
Tell a little bit about what is happening, just for context, and then talk about the mess.
There was a bill being passed right now to be able to have a lot more terms and conditions to what naturopathic doctors, holistic practitioners, nutritionists, herbalists can talk about with relation to health. So I think it got condensed under about 32 different conditions, of which it was really basic stuff. It's like, oh, herbs can only be used for colds and flus and basic pain and headaches is the summary of it. A lot of the herbs being used for mental health or, yeah, the anxiety stuff, the heart issues, that's off the table. That just doesn't even exist. That's actually inappropriate and now being placed almost in this illegal category where practitioners can be fined to the same level of fines that pharmaceutical companies endure, which originally it was like $5 million per day that they wanted to fine any corporation or independent practitioner for misuse of information. There's also something, Russell Brand was talking about this in Canada. They're trying to stop people from just talking about anything against, like any hate crimes, basically. And a hate crime can be considered not liking someone. It's like, what's the standard of it? And it would be retroactively implemented. The state of Canada right now for healthcare practitioners need to just be a lot more savvy. I don't think they should be registered in Canada as practitioners. I think there's something about making sure that you have a platform that maybe has a VPN outside of Canada. They're trying to crack down on that too. But it's a real money grab and power grab for people's general perception of what's possible with health. It's being corroded and taken back, in a sense, by a pharmaceutical company. That's their aim. It's even put under this name of like the self-care framework. Oh, self-care, people are on this whole excitement about, oh, I take care of myself, I do all those things. But self-care framework is very limiting and can pose huge issues for people in the long term accessing healthcare products that have been keeping them alive and keeping them not having a crappy quality of life. So because of the standards coming into Canada, because of the fees that they want to implement, it was about 80% of companies in Canada for supplements that said that they can't afford to stay in Canada anymore. So that's a huge loss to the public. Not only that, it increasing what products are already on the market, which if you look at supplements are already expensive, right? So it's like this increasing battle just to be well and to choose how you want to take care of your health within this country.
Wellness is really intense, and capitalism is driving forward something that I cannot for the life of me understand. I think we need both. And like everything else at this time in human history, it's not one or the other. I think that Western medicine, if I break my leg, I'm very grateful to go to the hospital. If I have something wrong with my, appendix and it's bursting, I'm grateful that a hospital exists. And also, there are natural things that I could do if I wasn't living a life of, which I don't, but, drinking and smoking and eating like garbage and eating the poison that they give us that they call food, and then wondering why I feel unwell all the time and relying on their medicine, I mean, anyway, it's all crazy. But speaking of medicine, because I really want to go there with you, talk to me about the mushies. I know that you are the mushroom queen. I know that and I even say this, that you have access to find them and, that they are a big part of your medicine and also your magic. Do you want to chat a little bit about just like all the goodness of them?
Yeah, I started advocating for mushrooms publicly in 2018.
Specifically psilocybin, or like all the bigs and psilocybin?
I've been a fan of all of them for most of my career. So since, even 2013, the reishi and the lion's mane, the medicinal mushrooms I've always worked with and have huge respect for, especially because these are some of the most like prized herbs or prized mushrooms in Chinese emperor temples. I personally find that right now the medicine that people really need is a giant wake-up call to their own sense of power and purpose. So to find that, I feel like it often requires deep introspection. A lot of people today, they need some kind of push to be able to take a really deep look at themselves. And what mushrooms provides is the environment and space to be able to conjure up those thoughts and awarenesses around our behavior, around our patterns, around the subtle ways in which we're blocking our progress forward with our career, with our family, with our relationships. When I look at mushrooms, it's the disruptor. It's this disruptor meant to reharmonize your path so that you have more joy, you have more access to peace. And what's crazy about mushrooms to me is that they do this so effortlessly. And we know from neurological testing that people's brainwave states goes right into a meditator's state of mind. So one large mushroom dose, a heroic dose of say 3.5 grams or more, that can end up feeling like you're in meditation for a month after. It gives you the ability to learn new things faster, which a lot of the times our growth is really stopped by our inability to implement the things that we need to on a day-to-day. We're in a patterning. Mushrooms are really good at helping us break out of that, and it puts us into a childlike state of mind. So when we talk about kids, we're talking about really impressionable beings. By the time that we're in our mid-20s, a lot of us are really fixed, and even more so when we're older. We get fixed in our ways. There's a beauty in that, but there's also a problem because we need to be able to adapt and grow. And mushrooms will make it so you have like a child state of mind with the wisdom there to be able to know how to act right. So there's like more willingness. A child is more willing, right, to try new things. An adult, sometimes less so, puts you into more of a willingness to implement the things that you need to do, have the hard conversations, and feel more empathetic and aware of other people's suffering. So then you're becoming a way healthier human. You're creating that in your own ecosystem and container, and that's creating a massive ripple effect. So when I look at the medicine of mushrooms, it's like the best way to become a better human, to happily, healthfully support the people around you, to have that echo effect out.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I've been guiding trips for a while, and the transformation that I see from one end to the other of the journey is astronomical. People come away different people, and you're right. Like there's a curiosity that comes about that you cannot have when you're not on mushrooms because everything is brand new. Everything is like, you can see the fiction of it all. It's the walls come down, so to speak, right? You're like, okay, there's more beyond than what I'm looking at every day. And the way that I'm showing up in it is the way that I've been showing up in it. And maybe I need to like go up a little differently, do something different, maybe be a different me. And it does open up portals. I'm curious, how for you mushrooms show up in your practice with like hand in hand with the supplements, like how that looks in a long-term, working with you kind of way.
There's plenty of protocols with mushrooms that meld really well, especially with the clients that are challenged with their mental health and their self-esteem. I have a lot of clients that I will refer to do mushroom journeys, and I will connect them with a close friend, therapist friend of mine who's been working with people for 32 years and has trained with the MAPS Institute, which is the Psychedelic Research Science Institute. So she's an amazing trip sitter. So I will often be the connector for people to recognize, hey, like you might need something a little bit deeper. I will also be the educator. So for example, there's a lot of people that they're curious about microdosing, and I love microdosing. I love it. I do it pretty regularly, having, smaller amount of mushrooms where it's not going to produce any type of visuals, but it will keep it so that my brainwave state is more in alpha wave state. So that more responsive, calm versus reactive. I like for total noobs to sometimes microdose first just to get a little bit of a taste before going into a full journey. However, there's cases of people who they just need to dive right into a guided session, and they'll notice, they're like, well, I was in 10 different therapy sessions. This one mushroom journey has had a 6-month, change in my personality and well-being. And just to give an example, I have some clients where I actually just feel that if there's rigidity with them, like let's say they're like scared and they're nervous, and they actually originally came to me to find a guide for mushrooms, sometimes I feel like they actually need a bit more internal balancing with certain herbs, like the float vibes can be very helpful to release anxiety, to become just more mentally resilient before they go on this, life-changing journey. You have to be ready for it. You have to be ready for anything. You have to be ready for potentially feeling scared or feeling nervous or having anger come up. So some people need a bit more harmonization, I feel, beforehand. But I absolutely have a place for mushrooms in terms of just letting people know the direction. And my suggestion on, are you going to go towards blue meanies, which are more visual strain, more for creative artists? Or are you going to go more towards a body experience? Is that actually what you need? Do you need more of a penis envy strain, which is way more in the body, way more feeling what's going on? Do you need golden teachers? Do you need Aztec? What direction would I see a person maneuvering into? So I'll share those different things about it. There was a point where I was doing 2-hour presentations about mushrooms, and I was teaching all these different tools about how to just support your inner child, how to be in relationship with the mushrooms when you're taking them, which I feel like is one of the most important things. It's inviting essentially like a best friend into your system to observe everything and to talk to you. If things feel too hard, or if you're noticing heart pains or stomach pains, I associate that more with the emotional, almost always.
Yeah, your body's like tensing up to the thing that you're suppressing all the time.
In that area of the body, so people talk about the chakras, which to me, it's just nerve plexuses. It's areas where it's like there's hundreds of railroads interconnecting, right? But it's nerves. So nerve energy, emotional energy is going to get caught up in those centers: the heart, the throat, the third eye, the crown. The solar plexus is the biggest one. People go on these journeys and they're unprepared to experience the physical pain. And they're thinking so hard about the physical pain, but it's like, no, talk to the mushrooms, like talk in your experience and ask, what do I need to understand about this? What is this feeling starting to bring up in me? So I will guide them through helping them learn and understand about those facets, which can make a world of a difference just in terms of how their journey ends up being for them.
Yeah, for sure. Talking to the mushrooms is like, it's such an important part of the whole process because, we love as humans to forget that we're part of nature, but mushrooms don't. And when we ingest them, then, it connects us back to the earth in such a way that like there's this real remembering in the body that happens. And when you have a connection that infuses those things and you're having that conversation and that dialogue, it's like talking to the whole world, the whole universe, all of existence in the moment that you're processing whatever it is that you're processing in your physical vessel as you're going through it. There's like so much potency in these moments, in these like journeys. And it is very, very, very important to make sure that you're using the right medicine with the right person at the right time with the right support and the right aftercare, the right before care. Integration is like a huge part of the journey. I know a lot of people that are medicine people who just like, they go on the journey and then the next journey and then the next journey. I'm like, just a minute, just don't do that. Do something else. Just let it be in your body for a minute because you got to integrate it. You can't just go on.
Can't just keep jumping to the next hallucination. And it's so true. It's like, even with my experience with mushrooms, there's a point where I was having regular mushroom journeys, once every 6 weeks, once a month sometimes, take a 2-month break. But in about a year and a half, I did well over 15 journeys. And then there's a point where I just barely touched it. But I was implementing things. Some of it was so simple. Some of it was like, have this conversation, rearrange your room, get rid of that thing. Like, it was really practical stuff that was needed and easy. And a lot of it was self-love work too. It was the reminder of like, oh, you're beautiful as you are. And like, really feeling that and dropping down into that experience. So mushrooms are such a healer, and I believe that no trip is supposed to be the same. And I feel like if the mushrooms are calling a person, there is something about following through. And sometimes I think multiple journeys are absolutely beneficial, but there's definitely a point where you have to be cognizant of integration is absolutely the most important thing. My worst trip that I ever had was in about 2017. And I had thought that like I was just paranoid, like hiding in my closet, totally freaked out. I was in a loop, but it was such an important trip. I was getting the same message trip after trip, and I wasn't implementing it. I ended up having a bad trip because I wasn't honoring the medicine. It was a really good lesson. It was a really good experience. I quit the job that I was associated with at the time, which was what was needed. And then I was a million times better. Didn't have a bad trip like that ever since, So you have to listen. I was
going to ask you, what was your best trip?
My best trip was my first heroic journey, I was in Algonquin Park by myself, and I experienced like my body to completely dissolve and come back. I was met with one of my big fears, which was insects crawling on my body. So there was it felt like an hour or two where it was like spiders and bugs like covered head to toe on me. And I was waist deep in the water. And I felt like the message was just like to be with it and to accept it. And it was like a harmonious feeling, because even though there wasn't actually all these bugs on me, it was changing something in my system to feel very calm and relaxed and okay. I thought there was bees on my face, right? It was so insane. After I went through this like period in the trip, what then emerged is this whole vision of, instantaneous creation, the idea that from thought, worlds are born. So if you take the right actions, the thoughts into actions, into repetitive habits, anything that you desire, you can pretty much create in this world. So it was like this big giant sky opening up to me, and I'm seeing different visions of my heart appearing visually in front of me. Options. What path do you want to go on? So it was really important. I ended up making a painting about this mushroom trip because of how inspiring it was. So I feel like that access to the miraculous was really opened up during that journey, especially.
I love that. That's so beautiful. What a beautiful, special human being you are. Thank you so much for this whole conversation. It's been so enlightening and so literally lightening for me to just share a little bit of time and space with you. I really appreciate it. Can you share with everybody where they can find you and how they can support you in your business?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm definitely most active on Instagram. So I would go to Jillian Weisberg, and the links will be below if you want to see any new events that are coming up, services that are on board, products, more information about those things. I post a lot of it on there, or my website, www.jillianweisberg.com. I would say the other best place is if you're interested in the Booby Grow. The Booby Grow Instagram is lit. I'm always posting there. The website, www.boobiegrow.com, is another really great place to find me. And YouTube, I'm always open to partnerships and podcasts and more chats. So I do have a handful of videos just on YouTube. If you type in my name and you want to learn about something holistic, you're going to find a lot.
Awesome. Well, this will be on YouTube, so they'll be able to see it, and you can go from here to other links below. All of Jillian's info is going to be available for you. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you all to our listeners, and we will be back in another couple of weeks with another episode. Thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to another episode of I'm Really Into That Stuff. You can follow along with us on Instagram at I'm Really Into That Stuff, or on Twitter at That Stuff Pod, and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. If this episode resonated with you and something that you're really into, share it with someone you love. Sending you strength, peace, love, and light until our next episode.